All right, let's dive right in. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating lecture by Dr. Bill Mounce on the Sermon on the Mount. And he gets into a huge challenge for Christians, right? How are you supposed to live as salt and light when it feels like the world is, well, pretty hostile to your values? It's such a great look at that constant tension between getting involved with the world and just hiding from it.
So, Mounce kicks things off with what he calls the biggest irony in the Beatitudes. I mean, just try to put yourself in the shoes of the disciples hearing this for the first time. Blessed are those who are persecuted. What? It just completely flips everything they would have known on its head. In their world, and in ours, let's be honest, a blessing means you're comfortable, you're prosperous. This idea is absolutely radical.
And here's where the logic starts to build. According to Mounce, if you're actually living out the other Beatitudes, if you're being meek and merciful and pure in heart, the world isn't going to throw you a parade. It's going to do the exact opposite. He argues that this kind of life, a life that looks like Jesus, is inevitably going to be hated and persecuted. It's not some unfortunate accident. It's a direct result.
Now, Mounce makes a really important distinction here. He's not talking about being disliked because, and he's pretty blunt about this, you're a twit. This is specifically about being targeted for righteousness, for living a life that follows Jesus. It's that friction you get when a truly changed life rubs up against the way things are.
So this all leads to a massive question, doesn't it? If this kind of persecution is basically a guarantee for true faith, how on earth can it be called a blessing? I mean, it just sounds like a complete contradiction.
So yeah, why would anyone ever rejoice in something like this? Well, Mounce's lecture breaks it all down, giving 3 specific reasons that totally redefine what it even means to be blessed.
Okay, so here's the breakdown. First, there's the promise of a huge reward in heaven, which kind of reframes whatever you're going through now as, temporary. Second, it gives you assurance. Mounce says persecution is basically proof that your life has genuinely changed, and now it stands out from the world. And third, it puts you in the same category as the prophets, who were also persecuted for standing up for what they believed. You're joining a pretty historic and honored group there.
Mounce uses this incredibly powerful quote from Bonhoeffer to really drive the point home. See, in this view, suffering isn't some failure you need to avoid. It's a badge that proves you're on the right track. It actually becomes the mark of a real disciple.
So if persecution is the reality, what do? What's the response? Mounce argues that Jesus immediately follows up this teaching with 2 amazing metaphors that show the answer is definitely not to run and hide. And the first one is salt.
You know, the key point here is that salt does absolutely nothing sitting in the salt shaker. To have any effect at all, as a purifier or a preservative, it has to make contact. It has to be rubbed into the meat. For Mounce, this is a clear command for believers to stay engaged with the world, not to pull back and create their own little bubbles.
Mounce points out 2 really cool functions here. As a purifier, a Christian's presence can literally change the tone of a conversation. Maybe someone decides not to tell that dirty joke or spread some gossip. Then, as a preservative, the collective influence of believers can actually slow down that bigger societal decay. But in both cases, the salt has to be there for it to work.
Oh, I just love this line from the lecture. It gets right to the point, doesn't it? Salt isn't sweet and pleasant like honey. It's sharp, it's distinct, and yeah, it can be irritating. Mounce's point is that being different by your very nature means you are going to aggravate some people. You're going to rub them the wrong way. That's actually part of your function.
And this all leads to a really powerful warning. Mounce explains that losing its saltiness just means becoming diluted, becoming exactly like the world around you. And when that happens, you're useless. He even points out that back in the day, worthless salt was thrown on paths, and it would actually damage the soil and keep things from growing. So you become worse than useless. You actually become harmful.
All right, so the second metaphor Jesus uses is light, and this one kind of shifts the focus. If salt is about that subtle, internal influence, light is all about a visible, obvious presence.
Mounce uses this first image to show that a believer's life is just meant to be seen. It's simple. Think about a town on a hill at night. You can't miss it. It stands out. There's no hiding it. And that's the whole point. It's supposed to be visible.
And the second illustration hammers home the same idea. I mean, lighting a lamp just to immediately hide it under a bowl, that would be completely absurd. A light has one purpose, to light things up. The message is clear. The truth you have isn't meant to be some private little secret. It's meant to be put on a stand for everyone to see.
And this brings us to the ultimate goal of it all.
This visible life, all these good deeds, they're not for you to get a pat on the back. The entire point, as Mounce explains, is that when other people see how you live, they will ultimately give glory to God, not to you.
Okay, so let's tie all these different threads together. We've got the reality of persecution, and then this call to be both salt and light. What does it all add up to?
This is really the core idea of Mounce's entire lecture. When you're faced with a world that seems hostile, the first temptation is to build a fortress and just hide inside. But the command here is the complete opposite. Engage. Be the salt that preserves and purifies from the inside. Be the light that shines for everyone to see. You have to be in the world, but you also have to be fundamentally different from the world, because that's the only way you can change it.
And Mounce leaves us with this final, really challenging thought to chew on. If the entire point of salt is its difference, what happens when it becomes the same as everything around it? What is actually lost when the thing that was supposed to cause change becomes indistinguishable from the very thing it was meant to change? It's a huge question to think about.